Welcome back to Hello Nigeria. It's time for our top story, and today we'll be looking at business in Nigeria, focusing on public-private partnerships and the likes. Today we have someone who will be joining us, a specialist. His name is Anthony KILA. He's a Jean Monnet Professor of Strategy and Development. He's currently the Center Director at CIAPS. CIAPS is the Center for International Advanced and Professional Studies, a Lagos-based international graduate school, and he's a Project Director working on various projects on Africa. Today, he'll be joining us to focus on business in Nigeria, looking at public-private partnership improvement, entrepreneurial investment as a key to improving business, and need for youth development for startups. Please make welcome our guest for today, Professor Anthony KILA. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for joining us,
Thank you for having
Professor
me.
KILA.
Thank you.
I remember we used to have you and your team over to talk about the monthly review of the performance index of the governor. So we used to have the governor of the month,
Yes.
and I always looked forward to our interviews with them. So
Yes.
I don't know, you haven't been doing it for a while. You want to make it compiled?
Yes.
Is it possible to give us a sneak peek into who you would rate the governor of the year so far?
That's very unkind of you, because I haven't got the details
Putting you
yet.
on the spot.
Because you're putting me on the spot. But there are some things. I mean, I think, in fairness, Lagos State stands out for a kind of consistency. There's been some up and downs. I think Lagos State stands out. I think, on top of my head, Kaduna stands out for sort of innovation and going towards private partnership. I think those two states. Some of the states are doing something. Some of the states are horrible. But to say this is one to have the data.
Who would you say are your bottom three? Because
My bottom three, no, I wouldn't say that. That's a serious one. So I need data to say it.
Okay.
Because the way we've been doing it now, we need to do across board. So we're looking at consistency,
Different
flukes,
indices,
yes,
yeah.
and different variables, yes.
So when will we be getting a more detailed report?
A more detailed one, probably by the end of the year, sometimes next year.
Fantastic.
To have an annual thing,
Look
yes.
forward to having you then.
Now,
Thank
Prof, people look at Nigeria and say, you know, the sleeping giant of Africa. We look at our demography and see that we have quite a huge number of young people, which should be a plus. But as we see it, they're the ones suffering from the brunt of underdevelopment and lack of jobs and that. Looking, I know you don't have a crystal ball in front of you, but your projections, the future, how do we change this? And how can we maximize the potential in the youth of Nigeria?
Well, I think three things needs to be said. One is that the situation is pretty bad, especially when you compare potential to reality. But then, between potential and reality, there's something good going on, which is technology, which makes somebody like me rather optimistic, even when I look at what the situation is. Technology in terms of information, in terms of access to information, in terms of being able to compare oneself, standards, achievement, and aspirations to what is going on in the rest of the world. So that would, in a way, catalyze things. But unfortunately for human beings, everything we do is never automatic. There needs to be a conscious effort to desire, plan, project, and execute our ideas. And because of that, the Nigerian youth are in a bad situation, because it's either they get things done themselves, or they need to get people who can sort of empower them, or at least not obstruct them from achieving things.
Like the entertainment industry, they did it themselves.
Exactly. As a matter of fact, like the entertainment industry, you're very right, they did that themselves. And the day, I feel very bad when I now see them hopping up into government. This is going to slow you down. I have a theory that in Nigeria, government is bad for progress overall. Government tends to be an impediment to progress and achievement rather than a partner. That needs to change.
All right, now I would still like to come back to that statement very shortly.
Yes.
But before then, you said something as well during your introduction when we were speaking earlier on about public-private partnerships.
Yes.
Now, we know that in other developed countries, this is one of the strongest ways that the government of a nation builds the capacity of that nation with regards to partnering with the private sector.
Yes.
Now, from your point of view as a researcher, having studied the economy, how well has Nigeria done with the PPP? And then what could be done better? Now, I'm reminded of the UK and when New Labour came in and strengthened the private partnership and privatized a number of government agencies.
Yes.
You know, looking at that in comparison with how Nigeria is doing, what would you say to that?
I think overall we've done rather badly. Overall, you know, that's a short answer. We've done badly for three main reasons. The first reason is that the Nigerian government as a whole, and indeed lots of Nigerian people and organizations, but mainly the government, the lack of view that the government is there to serve people. You see, that's a huge problem we have. That's a sort of the fundamental flaw of the relationship between government and private in Nigeria. The sense that the government is there to serve people.
Entitlement mentality.
Is not there. Well, there's this idea that the government is one big daddy or one big mommy that just tells people what to do. The idea that as a citizen, when you go to the government office, you have to defer, you know, to a public officer. It's a very strange idea. The idea that when you walk on the road, government official will pass and you have to make way for them. You see, the idea that the most expensive offices are in the premium area, government offices, I will move them. If I was in charge, I will rotate them. I will take a government office for 1 year to Ajegunle, next year take it to Mushin, and then develop the place, not keeping them in areas. What are they generating? So that's one flaw. The other flaw is, and you see, and the consequence of this flaw, because the government has all the power, they really cannot do, and they haven't been doing a transparent, merit-led activity. It's all, as you were saying, entitlement is about concession. So the government of the day gives things to whoever is nearer to them. And the people, you know, go and look for it. To have a good partnership, government must be seen as, at best, a regulator. Somebody that ensures what cannot be done so that people can have it. So government says, they need road. What can we do to get roads? Then you get together people who can do roads, and you work with the private people. But I also think we as a people, we also need to realize that generally government's presence creates unnecessary power, fuels corruption, bureaucracy, and it doesn't work that way. The example in Nigeria goes back to telecom. When we had NITEL, it wasn't working very well. Bring in 3-4 operators, and it is working well.
But why is the PPP not working for electricity sector,
Yes.
the big elephant in the room?
Well, because the framework is not very strong, and also because, and viewers can Google it as we talk, if you go back to do a search on the people who actually got the licenses, they're not exactly example of star record or a track record of working in that industry. So this is affecting us. But that said, though, we are at an initial stage. And I also think another problem we have regarding our demand is that we're focusing on just one area. We should be talking about various forms of energy generation, but we're not at all, and that's a huge problem. There's a report flying around saying the way things are going, Germany will be paying people to use electric power because there are different sources, and you know the distribution company have so much to generate. If you generate in Norway and indeed some part of Italy at the moment, because you can generate power yourself through solar power, you as an individual will be selling it to government and the companies generating it.
Okay, now speaking of power, power is a major problem that we've had in Nigeria. While the world is looking for renewable sources of energy, we haven't seemed to look much in that direction. Now, we're also looking at entrepreneurship and investment in this regard. There's certain things that impede the growth of a business, one of which is power. Now, recently, we look at the positive side, being that on our ease of doing business ratings, we've upgraded, you know, but there's still much more that needs to be done. So what are the other areas we need to work on when it comes to, what are the other policies that we can incorporate, the government needs to incorporate to ensure that it will be easier for people to do business here?
I'm going to go straight to what the government needs to do. Let me just stop to say, because this is an opportunity to say this, and I want people to listen to this, shame on Nigerian government and Nigerian people as a whole for not solving the problem of power. You see, I won't say that there should be a moratorium on the activities of government until they did power. They should say, don't do anything. Don't talk about... There was a time they were talking the haircut to footballers. You know, they were talking about gay marriages in Nigeria. I think the National Assembly should stop, not do anything else until they solve power. You know, like God said, let there be light, or the first thing. So we should get the government that said, let there be light first, before they say anything. Then to the other side, what should government be doing? Let me start on people. I'm very people-private oriented. I think the fourth thing is that the people should have a sense. There's a piece, this is self-quotation, there's a piece somewhere online which I wrote as a manifesto for corporate Nigeria. Corporate Nigeria should first have a sense that they have a big right to be on that table to discuss the progress of Nigeria. They have a big, not only right, actually a duty to influence power, who goes there, what they do and how they do it, and when they do it. That's the first thing on their side. So that's kind of consciousness to be a productive sector, which is one that matters most. Because if you look at it, at best in democracy, somebody gets so much power to rule a country just because they say, like me, like me, like me. And people like him and clap for him. Not because they actually invent something, write anything, produce something. I say a lot of time that there are many ministers who are less important to my life than my plumber, if you really look at it very well. But that's on one side. What the governments need to do, I believe that overall, the first duty of government, even before creating roads, even before creating health, is to create certainty. To know that the laws are clear, they're transparent, and once they're there, they will be respected, and they will not be out of confines of the Constitution. That is one thing the government needs to do. The other thing the government needs to do, after creating certainty, is to understand that there is a big lacuna in the country in terms of development, in terms of education, in terms of employment, and say, what do we do to make that happen? Once you have that sense, you will then realize that the role of the government is to make things easier, not more difficult. It is a strange place in this country where, although it is reduced, a young graduate, because I'm passionate about, young graduates, that's what we train at CIAPS. A young graduate leaves a course, wants to start up a business, and you tell him to pay so much to register the business. It doesn't make sense. That needs to be scrapped. Take his passport, take his driver's license, take his biometrics if you want to trace him, but don't let him or her start spending money before you earn money.
Because you're killing business.
You're killing it. You need to pay only when you earn. So the government needs to see what are the 50, 100 things that are impeding job creation, productivity, creative ideas, and then work to reduce those kind of things.
Now, let's look at, there's always a buzzword about foreign investors, foreign investors, foreign investors. Yeah. And I think business people all over the world, you don't need to advertise that, come to Nigeria to do business. They'll see the opportunities when you create the enabling environment. There's been talks about our airports recently, and I say it that our airports are very important. It's like a doormat to your house. The way you make the airport, it's a bigger reflection. It's a reflection of society at large. We've seen a shining example of a PPP workout with the Murtala Mohammed second airport that is run by Courtney, and a lot of people even say it's more efficient and it's better looking than the international airport. Now there's talks about private partnership with some certain Gulf countries, the Emirates, I think Qatar, and a few other countries, and there's been raised eyebrows in some quarters. They're not talking from a national security perspective. They say they're not comfortable with the religion or the region these investors are showing interest from. Do you have anything against that? And should we be skeptical about opening airports?
I need to say this very quickly about airports. I did a lot of joint ventures and internationalization, so I get a lot of foreign people come and see us. And after doing the international airport, I always find an excuse to take them to MM2, just to show them, hey, we got something else. Yeah. It's not only that one, about years ago. Well, I think I'm not a very sort of religious-oriented looking at things that way, but there's something strange. You see, the Gulf countries, when they were going to do their airports and they did a lot of their infrastructures, they were going to Western countries. Thanks. So we are going to people who are going to people to get people to do things for people. It's a very strange, fascinating kind of way. Maybe there are financial considerations. If they can make that case, it will be fine. I think what we need to do is that any project we have, the sponsors, the champions of such project should be able to make a case for it. And because it's a public project, It should be transparent. We should see what's going on. And whoever, because you see, it is not doctor's recommendation that one needs to serve in public. Whoever decides to be elected or to take a nomination should have the tolerance to stand up to public scrutiny. Yes. So if I just stand up one day and accuse them of something, they just need to come up and make the case. And they should do it very calmly, very patiently, and very openly.
Not enemies of government. Or,
not enemies of government, or accusing people of not being patriotic. And that's so cheap and lazy.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us and for having this fantastic conversation. We've run out of time, but before I let you go, I'm going to ask you a question, a yes or a no, because you're very passionate for young people, young graduates in particular.
Yes, indeed.
Many people have advocated that the National Youth Service Corps program should be scrapped. Some others say it should be worked on. So to be scrapped or not to be scrapped?
To be scrapped, I don't care.
Well, you heard it right from Professor Anthony KILA. He's the chairman and director at SIAPS. Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to having you again.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to quick break. When we return, we'll be looking at sports. It was Super Sunday yesterday. What was the outcome? Nnamdi joining us shortly.
To enjoy more of these our Ogbonge videos when you just watch, press this button to subscribe on top of our YouTube page. You go love am.